Hi everyone, my name is Itai Kaplan for aetatsplus.com, and this is what we're going to create today. Now, as you can probably see, this is an original tennis game which I took the other player and instead put a classic Pong brick from the game Pong, one of my favorites definitely. So let's go into After Effects. Now we have our footage, our tennis footage, and we're going to drag it into a new comp. And the first thing we do is we're going to track it. So let's go to our tracker window. If you don't have it, just click Window, and here it is. Alright, so we're going to select track motion. We're going to check rotation and position as well. Let's zoom in and place our trackers. Now it's very important that you trace our trackers right next to the place you want to edit or you want to work on. I'm not using those corners because this other player might interfere, so this one should do the trick. And maybe we'll extend it a little bit. There we go. And let's analyze. Okay, After Effects has finished tracking our dots. You can see we have our little keyframes for every tracker. This will contain our tracking information. Alright, let's click Layer, New Null Object, and we'll click Edit Target and make sure it's set for our null. Now we click Apply, Apply Dimensions X and Y, and click OK. And we got a new null that contains all the tracking information, as you can see here. So now that we have our null ready, we can remove this player. So let's click our footage and Control D to duplicate it. Right click, Time, Freeze Frame. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place two still images of this empty area here and empty area here. So let's hide our original footage and we can mask out the rest of the footage. Maybe this is too far, I don't want the audience to get in. And let's hide it, and we're going to parent to the null object. Now let's rename it empty still left, and I'm going to render it very quickly. And as you can see, when the player is moving to the left side of the screen, it's going to disappear. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for the right part of the screen. So we click our footage, Control D to duplicate. We'll call it empty still right. Right click it, time, and oh, before we go, let's move on to about here, and time, freeze frame. Let's hide this one, and once again we're going to mask, create a mask around this area. Now make sure your two masks are overlapping so it won't cause any problems. Let's quick render it one more time. Oh, before we render, we should get our other still and parent it to our null. And we have our empty field. Very good. Okay, so our next step is we're going to render this footage. So let's click Composition, Make Movie. We'll call it tennis footage empty. also save it as a QuickTime movie, and we'll render it out. Okay, now that we have our empty footage, we can go ahead and track it with a special 3D software. Now, there are a lot of softwares out there. I personally use PFO by Pixel Farm, a pretty good software that gives you a great result for a relatively small amount of money. Now, before we go, there's something that all those softwares have in common, that they're not responding very well to moving objects like this one or the audience. So before we go, let's create a new solid, Control Y or layer new solid. Let's make it comp size maybe even larger. We're going to hide it and create a mask around the audience maybe. Here we go. And let's check that it's overlapping through the whole footage. Alright. We're going to do the same thing for those people down here. So once again, create a new solid, hide it, and create a mask. Now it doesn't have to be accurate, but you know, try to get as close as you can to those objects. Here we go. So we have another one here, and create for this guy right here. Here we go. And for our last one, we're going to make a mask around our tennis player. So let's create another solid. Alright, let's hit M to bring out mask path, create a keyframe, move forward. Let's move it a little bit. Alright. Now, don't worry about the ball, because we can manually delete all the dots for this ball, so it's alright. Let's create another one. Here we go. And another one here. And looks fine. Now don't worry about small imperfections like this shadow here or the ball or anything, because we can manually delete it. One more thing you can see is that my masks are pretty big, so try not to do that, but for this particular footage it should do the trick. Okay, one last thing we need to do is create another solid. We'll make it black and we place it beneath our white solids. We're going to render it out again. QuickTime. We'll call it tennis footage masks. We'll hit render and let's go to PFO. Okay, so we're in PFO, as you can see this blinking cow right here. Now we're going to import our footage. You can see here we have our original footage, our empty, and our mask. Let's import our empty footage. we can cancel this wizard, and we're going to import our masks by clicking this button right here. Let's go and import mask, and as you can see, it created these little, I don't know, purple areas. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to press track features. Now, I'm not going to get into all the technical stuff around this software, and you can find a really good tutorial right here on AE-TUTS Plus. I'm just going to run through it very quickly, so I'm going to pause the recording now and meet you in the next stage. Okay, so as you can see, PFO has finished tracking all those little dots right here, everywhere basically. And we can see that our tracking was pretty good by extending this part right here. Now our next step will be, let's go to, it doesn't really matter, will be to press here and place this box on our court. So let's just pick a place where you can see a nice rectangle area and just place it. Now it doesn't have to be as accurate as you think for this shot. Just need to do something that looks decent, and we're going to press solve. Okay, so PFO has finished solving all the dots, and you can see we got a pretty decent result. Don't mind these red dots here, and you can even see here that our footage is pretty good. Now, another cool way to look at it is to click here on the 2D and switch it to 3D view, and that's, I don't know, a nice way to look at it. Okay, so one thing I noticed is in the end of our sequence, wait, here we go. In the end of our sequence, something is pretty much messed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch it to 7, and that way we're going to export only this sequence right here, and we're going to exclude the last frame. Okay, let's export our information to Cinema 4D. Now, as you can see, you can choose Cinema 4D here, and let's give it a name. Scale factor doesn't really matter, but you can leave it 100. Click OK, and I'll see you in Cinema 4D. Okay, so we're in Cinema 4D. We're going to open our track information, and right now it doesn't look like anything. So let's go to the background. We're going to edit the background material by double clicking it, texture, and we're going to bring our original footage, not the empty footage, the original footage. Click yes, and okay, now as you can see, our video dimensions are 4:3, which is not good. So let's go to render settings, output, and we'll choose film video and 720/25. And now you can see that all these dots are really belongs to the footage. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to choose a dot that will be easy to work with. So just run through here from the objects menu, and here we go. I think 19 is pretty good. You'll probably get another a different number, but try to get one of the dots on this line here. So I'm going to select Auto 19, Control X to cut it, go up, and Control V just for it to be a lot more comfortable for us. And the next step is we're going to create a cube. And I'm not really want to drag it over here. I'm just going to use the information from this dot. So I'll press it, coordinates, and we're just going to copy it one by one. There's probably an easier way to do this, but this should work for now. And the z-axis, and here we go, our cube is over here. Now one more important thing before we proceed is we're going to take the camera, control or command and drag it to create a duplicate, and we'll call it work cam. We're going to use it later. Okay, so now let's press our cube, we'll bring it up, and we're going to go to our work camera. We're going to zoom in. Okay, you can zoom by pressing 2, 1 is pan and 3 is free rotate, just for you to know. And we're going to play with the cube's dimensions. Here we go, I think this is pretty decent. Let's get back to our PFO camera. Now you can see it's way too big, so we can continue playing with it. And bring it down. And you know what, make it a little thinner. Okay, so now let's go to the object and check fillet and choose 25. Now we can render it very quick, and we have our brick ready. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is to create a new material. So file, shader, and we'll place a denel. Go side, change the color to a very light green bluish color. Press OK. We're going to check environment. Going to click image, surfaces, Venus. We're going to lower the intensity to 5 and the glare to 60. We're going to check roughness, and you're going to change amplitude to 4 and the scale to 160. Alright, we're going to place the material on our cube, hit render. Doesn't really look that good right now, but I can assure you it will get a lot better. Okay, so let's add a sky. And for our sky we want to attach an HDRI. So let's click on the content browser here and choose an HDRI. I guess this one is good, and place it on our sky. Now we don't want our sky to show up in our render, although it kind of look nice, I think. So we're going to right click the sky, Cinema 4D tags, compositing, and uncheck scene by camera. So now we get the reflections from the sky onto our cube, and we're not going to see the sky in our camera, which is pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit with our render settings. So let's go back to render settings, choose anti-aliasing, change to best, and animation. And we're also going to choose effect and create global illumination. And this way our render will look a lot more nice than it is. Alright, so one more thing is we want to make our cube an editable object, so we can do it by pressing C or pressing this button right here. And for next thing, we're going to create a light. Once more, we're going to bring the light with the information from this dot right here. Okay, let's bring it, let's bring it up and make it closer. Very good. And yeah, it looks pretty decent, I think. Okay, so our next step, we're going to create keyframes for the movement of this cube. Now, you might be able to see that if we press play, it's going to run pretty slow. That's because our background is a video. So a nice way to overcome this problem is by going back to After Effects. Let's go to our original tennis footage, and we're going to check when's the player going to hit the ball on which frame, and that way we'll know how to place it. So move forward to place where he really swings the ball. As you can see, it's on frame 105. If you can't see the frames, just Command or Control click it, and it will switch from timecode to regular frame. Alright, so we know that our player swings the ball at 105. So let's go to 105 and oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to the start of the composition and control click the X axis. Let's go to 105. We're going to place it right here and control click it again. Now we're going to move forward 10 frames and we're going to control click one more time to create another keyframe. Okay, so let's go to the next swing, and here we can see it's 168. So let's go to 168. Let's move our brick, create a keyframe, move 10 frames forward and create another keyframe. And if we shut down our background for a second, you can see that our brick is moving kind of slow. Now, if you remember from the original game, the brick kept on moving constantly when you played against the computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a few random keyframes. So let's, I don't know, go to frame 23 and let's move it here, create a keyframe, let's move forward, add another keyframe, move forward, add just random places, and now we have our swing. Let's move forward, another one, once more. And let's go further. And not here. Let's move it all the way here. And almost last one should be here, and for last one make it all the way here. Okay, so you can see that our Pong brick keeps on moving, like it controlled by a, I don't know, a crazy computer. Okay, so for our next step we want to, let's bring back our background, and we want to create a shadow for this brick. Now I tried several ways to doing that, and I found that the best way is to just control drag it to duplicate our cube, bring it down, maybe even further, make it flat, and you might even resize it, get it bigger, and that way we're going to cover for some imperfections that might been caused by, I don't know, if our tracking was not pretty good. So we're going to close this one for now, and let's go to render setting one more time. Let's go through this really quick. We'll change the output to all frames. Let's make a path over here. We'll call it tennis brick, and we'll leave it 8, and we'll choose QuickTime Movie one more time, and make sure alpha channel is checked. Alright, that's look great. We'll render it. Oh, sorry, before we render we need to hide our background, and you know what? Alright, let's render it first. Yes, we're going to overwrite, and now we're going to pause the recording and see you when the rendering is done. Alright, so we finished rendering our brick. Looks pretty good. I'm going to close it for now. Now, before we go to After Effects, we want to render our shadow as well, so let's close this one. Let's bring back our flat, let's call it brick, this one a shadow. Our flat one, we'll create a quick material for it. Double click here, material, and just change the color to an almost black color. Let's bring it to the shadow. Can delete the old one, make sure it's black. Alright, you know what, let's make it a little more flat. That's it. And one more time, let's go to our render settings, save, let's call it tennis brick shadow, make sure alpha channel is turned on. We'll close it and render it again, and I'll see you in After Effects. Okay, so here we are in After Effects, and we have our tennis brick and our tennis brick shadow videos. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take our tennis empty footage and drag it into a new comp, and we're going to bring tennis brick as well. You can see that it's looking pretty good. Now, one thing we need to do is we need to continue the ball movement. You can see here the ball disappearing, and it's not really hitting the brick. So what we're going to do is Control Y to create a new solid. We'll make it relatively small, 8 by 8, and we'll choose the color of the ball, which is kind of a really light yellow color. Here we can try to play with it to get more accurate color. I think this is it. Okay, so here are our ball. Basically, it's not looking like a ball right now. So what we're going to do is going to make a mask around it. Now we don't really want to make it look like a ball because we'll have a lot of motion blur, and we just need to make it something like that. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be a ball. And I see it's kind of small, so we'll scale it up. And oh, another great tip I can give you for working with small objects like this one is by pressing Control, Shift and H, you can delete all of these lines and grids, and you know, nothing really interfere with your work right now. So let's go to the frame where our original ball disappears, and here it is. We're going to move our new ball. I will scale it back down. Here we go. We might even need to color correct it later on, but it's okay. Now, before we do this, let's bring back our original footage and place it on top of our empty footage, just for us to see where the ball really is going. Let's hit Alt left square bracket to trim our layer. Let's go to the position, pressing P, make a new keyframe, go forward a couple of frames and move it here. Okay, try to zoom in our timeline and bring back all those lines. Control A and Control Shift H. Now we want the ball movement to be rounder than this one, so we're just going to play with the keyframes. Here we go, and we'll move 2 frames forward, add another keyframe. Oh, something I forgot to do, and it's very important. I'll delete this keyframe. Let's go to the original composition, take our null object, Control C and Control V to paste it in our new composition, and we want our ball to parent with the null. That way it will be more realistic. Alright, so we have our new ball and we need to go forward a couple of frames. Oh, here we'll hide the original one. Let's go forward and we can see that here our original ball comes back. So we bring it back and I can see that this keyframe is not a Bezier keyframe, so right click, keyframe interpretation and make it Bezier. Maybe it is. Yeah, it is. Too small. Alright. And we can check what we have right now. Wait, let's press first motion blur and add motion blur, and let's see. Okay, it looks nice. It looks nice. Yeah, it can work. Maybe we should, I don't know, scale it down a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so let's go to our last keyframe. We'll bring up opacity by pressing Shift and T. So now we can see also the position and the opacity. We'll add a keyframe. We'll bring it to 0. And now we can go back one frame, page up, and bring it up to 100. And that way our ball should disappear. Let's try this again. 0, 100. All right. And now we need to go back to the other swing, other shot. And this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because the ball bounces. It should be that hard, so let's go to the last frame, make another one frame back, make another keyframe, one frame forward, 100, and let's bring our ball, let's bring our ball right next to the original one. Okay. And we'll bring back up the original footage. Now let's go a few frames forward, and we need to cheat a little bit here because the original ball is kind of lower than our brick, but it's alright, it will go smooth. So we'll bring it here to the corner, 2 frames forward, and we'll create another keyframe, and let's go through with it. Let's hide the original one, and we need to bring it back here. Okay, let's bring back our original footage. Let's bring back our guidelines, Control Shift H to make our path round. And one more time, keyframe interpretation. It was already Bezier. Oh, those are too small for me, I'm sorry. And we'll make it round. And same thing here. Wow, those are way too small. I think it's not a Bezier one. Right click. Oh, come on. All right. No way. You know what? Let's check this one, the last one. Zoom in. Bezier. And there we go. Okay, let's render it really quick to see if it looks alright. Yeah, it looks good, I think. Let's hide the original one. It looks good. So what we need to do now is we go to our last position keyframe, sorry about that, and we'll create another keyframe in the opacity, 0, 1 frame back, page up, and we bring it to 100. And as we can see now, let's render everything really quick. It looks pretty good. Alright, so one more thing we need to do before we finish with this video. Now you might be able to see that there's a small, very thin dark line around our brick. So I'm going to fix that by adding a roughen edges effect. Let's add it to our tennis brick. And we'll scale the ball down. That should do right, and we'll scale down roughness, and that's good. Another thing you might notice, sorry, is that our tennis brick, it's in much higher resolution than the rest of the footage, so we can fix this by adding a mosaic effect to our brick, something really big, like, alright, and check sharp colors, and we might even give it a little fast blur, like so. Okay, no, that's too much. Let's bring it to 1. Yeah, that should work. Alright, so before we go, another thing we can do is add an adjustment layer for color correcting. So I'm using Red Giant's Colorista. It gives a very nice look for everything. Looking down, let's bring up the contrast, and I like this color right here. Might even make it a little more bright. And another trick we can use is add another adjustment layer, add to it fast blur. This is a cool trick. Boost it up a little bit, maybe 11, repeat edges pixel, and make it overlay. And it really gives a nice contrast and glowing effect. Oh, we forgot to add our shadow, of course. Let's bring our shadow, put it beneath the tennis brick and beneath our ball. And we'll go to our tennis shadow, make it multiply, add to it a fast blur, maybe reduce the opacity a little bit. We might even give it a fill effect. I don't know, just make it a little more suitable for our colors. And that's about it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Itai Kaplan for AE Tats Plus, and I'll see you next time.